Alrighty then, let's continue our base tour of our level 1 and 2 science builds. So yesterday we went over the astronomic science 1 and 2 and the material science 1 and 2 builds. Um, just one note is that while these space manufactories can make most things that are made from the ground, they actually cannot be productivity modules. So there is a choice between whether you want to make some of the intermediates on the ground so that you can productivity module them, versus making them in space so that it's easier to transport. Though this thing here, these material testing packs, they can be productivity modules, but they stack extremely poorly. So it's not really worth it to actually make them in space. Uh, all right, so let's move on. Let's look at the uh, e- energy science first. Then let's see where we start. Okay, so let's go um, northwest from our main landing pad, from our starting landing area. I have it sort of. It's good to kind of organize your things in a way where each science goes out one way. So like uh, I land here ish, and then I have material science down in this quadrant. Um, no, material science down in this quadrant, the biological sciences down in this quadrant, and then astronomic up in here, and energy science up in this quadrant. So this is the first energy science build. Um, with energy science, you're gonna start needing some of ion stream. So I started some small designs for. Ooh, I haven't updated this. This is a first plasma stream build. It used to take stone, but now it takes lithium, so I actually haven't really done anything here. And then this also doesn't take copper anymore. It takes something else now. Yeah, it takes rare metals now instead of copper, so I gotta fix this. Um, and this was also one of the builds that I had. Yeah, and this doesn't take copper anymore either, so gotta fix that. So there's some um, so yeah, so energy sciences require homonite, and you see here that this is one of the first experiments. This is another experiment. This is one more experiment that takes some of these multispectral mirrors, actually from the astronomic science packs, and then this is a very uranium-intensive experiment. And I just have so for some of them I used a variety of these requester boxes and also the requester containers. And for these that have, it takes in some uranium but also gives you back some uranium, I just have these crastorial boxes are great in that it fits two inserters, so you can have one going in and one going back out, so the one going back out can be recycled. And all four experimental data come in here and gets made into the first energy catalog. And then the insight, which is of course not in use currently, and then the significant data bill, which also is not in use, and then this is the energy science 1 build. And if you so it used to I used to have the significant data coming here. Of course now significant data just comes in via import. And but I didn't dismantle any of this builds just in case I need it later on. And then I collect some of these catalogs to build the efficiency modules. And let's see. Um, oh yes, and then let's go up here. This is the second level. This is the second level of the energy science pack. So so it uses some of the material testing packs, and it comes in here. There's more cooling that I needed to add, and now some of these uses the particle collider, um, and so that, and then that's another experiment that just uses cool thermal fluids. I think there is some of the annoying ones that output, instead of outputting the base thermal fluid, it actually outputs the first level of the cool thermal fluids, which is kind of annoying. I'm not sure if it's here, or just take in the particle stream. So I have particle stream. So I have a big build here making some of these streams. The particle stream, I only have one machine making it. It really, that's the only thing that uses this particle stream. So the green one, the pink one is the no, proton stream. I mean, yeah, the green one's proton stream. The pink one's particle stream. Particle stream very important. Um, but yes, and then it goes into, no, this is the build number 2. Yeah, and then there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 experiments. Some of it are starting to take another intermediate product, these homium cables. And I have it made here, even though you can plot module these on the ground. I just have to make here. I think that's my base build anyways. I do import some from the ground, but in this case I just make them here. And then they go along, and also the homium cable is required in the actual science pack itself. Again, it's intermediate product, significant data, catalog, insight plus the previous science pack plus cool thermal fluid. And yeah, here's supercomputers making the second catalog, the better insight recipe. So I've made insight recipes using just the first catalog plus the ones using the first 2 catalogs, which I don't use them anymore, of course, because there's better. There's also a recipe using the level 1, 2, and 3 catalogs, which I didn't bother building because you could actually just build the recipe that uses all 4 catalogs, and that's much more efficient. So yeah, and then the science packs go into here. All right, and you see that there's quite a bit of space in between, and through my builds, I just plop down a bunch of these big, more advanced solar panels. So the first couple of builds, you see that I just used the the original the original substations, and also the original long these big power electric poles. In the later ones, so once you get some of the levels of the energy science, you can build these better electric wire poles, like this pylon that has very long wire reach. And then later on, you'll see some of the pylon substations that have, like, it's basically a giant substation. And then there's also longer pylons with radar capability, with construction capability, and also with both construction and radar capabilities. So let's go down to the biologic science builds. Not sure I've shown off my recycling area. This is the recycling decontamination area. This is recycling. There's more recycling over here. You need a lot of recycling because there's a lot of scraps that a lot of the different sciences make. But then there's also decontamination for the contaminated scrap, and also broken data cards need recycling. I don't know if I showed off So the junk data cards need to be processed back into some of the blank data cards, and then you get some of the you do break some of it. There's much bigger builds for that over here, uh, with the higher levels of the supercomputers, and there's actually one final builds down here, where this is the most efficient data formatting that you get back the most amount, like 95% of the blank data cards you get back. Only 5% of them break. It does take cryonite rods to process, and it uses these highest level of the supercomputers. But these supercomputers are very expensive to create, so not really going to be using too much of them. They're very pretty looking. And yeah, so there's decontamination of both contaminated cosmic water and also contaminated biosludge, which biosludge is going to be important um, in our biologic science builds. So to kickstart the biosludge, what you need is to bring in use cosmic water, plus you bring in a some sort of living material. You can use wood. You could use these crastorial tube biomatter, which is basically the creep. You could use fish. This is a fishy one. So I just have, if I ever need extra amounts of the biosludge, I'll use this to kickstart it. And you don't want to jam the biosludge though, because you don't always want that much biosludge. Because of course there are things that outputs contaminated biosludge for no reason, and you do need to decontaminate those biosludge so that they can be and that can be recycled into here. And then biosludge comes down here and makes this nutrient gel, which is used to basically grow things, I guess, in a way. And the nutrient gel gets used into uh, this basic nutrient vat. Uh, uh-huh. And let's see. Yes, yes. Okay, so I have a control where I wanted to use a different formula for the nutrient gel, because there's a more advanced formula that instead of taking cosmic water, or instead of, it uses quite a bit less. I'll show it off, but I didn't actually build this until much later on. Ah, yes, here. So this one uses this methane gas, and it doesn't need any coal, and it takes much less chemical gel, biosludge, and cosmic water. Uh, it's much more efficient recipe. And then methane gas, it's made from this methane ice, which is mined directly, found in asteroid belts and also some orbit levels, but mostly asteroid belts. So these two are my new nutrient gel recipes, but I still have the old one built, and it's controlled, and this activates if it's too little. The original recipe didn't require any of these fertilizer, but the updated compatibility recipe does require it. So and that's what makes it so that you have to make a lot more fertilizer. So I just have these nutrient vats going in. Pretty sure I have to redo some of these builds in a bit, because it's not very. I don't think I really took into account the fact that if I stop making the nutrient gel this way, then I'm not sure that if I am making more of these nutrient vats in another location somewhere. Uh, yes, yes. Okay, so I do have a bigger build here where it takes nutrient gel and just keeps making a lot of these also stack extremely poorly. This is a ship that instead of one that I made earlier on. I'll show you all my ship builds later on. So instead of having the fluids come in via the cannons, and then unbottling and then having extra barrels, so the barrels have to get recycled into steel. Um, I have a ship bringing these fluids. It's not particularly efficient. The launch energy off of Novice is very intensive um, in these liquid rocket fuel, but it's I in a way it might be better than having cannon a billion barrels. I'm not entirely sure. You still do, like I said before, you still do need some of these barrels, so I haven't entirely stopped the cannon processes. And then if you go, so let's see. So you go down here, and this is where the biologic science build begins. So you begin with making a lot of these genetic data, which is actually used in the next steps. It's one of the data cards, but it's actually used to create the next step. So it makes these. It takes in the nutrient vats here to make the bioculture. Bioculture is used to make what's called a biomass. So biomass is another in Base Crash Tutorial 2, the creep is actually called Biomass, but they changed the name and the compatibility so that you don't have the two things, um, get mixed up. So yeah, you have this takes lithium chloride, which is actually added in the compatibility update. Takes the lithium chloride data cards and biosludge to make the genetic data cards. Data cards go into making the bioculture, which a decent amount of it actually gets recycled. So I have this recycling loop of it, and also some of the data cards do become junk. And the bioculture comes down here. Uh, you make biomass as well as, and then this is actually what you would use to make more biosludge. The biomass goes back into the bio goes back into this process, adding with cosmic water, and it makes more biosludge. And this is actually a net positive. It's meant to be a net positive loop. But if you ever use up all the biosludges from your other things, then you do have to bring in more organic matter from the ground. But yeah, this is supposed to actually generate your biosludge into here. And again, I have it controlled so that you don't overload the system with biosludge just in case any of the recycling needs to happen. There's a couple more biomass machines, and then this biomass is goes up here and makes the other three data cards. So there's one with this, another one that uses lubricant, and then one more that uses the chemical gel, and also some Vitamin spice is one of the ground is one of the things I have to import from ground. It's one of the Vitamin byproducts. And yes, this also takes the Vitamin spice. So all four data cards converge here. Some of the data cards actually need to get used in the next level, so I have it filtered out here. I think the earlier level of data cards having to be used in the next level actually occurs through all the three sciences. So you kind of have to look at your the recipes itself to see which one you need to make a bit more of. And sometimes if I want something that gets produced more of, I just add more modules to it. My builds are very compact and not at all very flexible. I could of course always add in stuff with another block, but I think this way works okay. You don't have to aim for like a giant production of any of these science packs anyways. And then all four data cards come into here. This is the first biological catalog one, and then insight, significant data, and then the first science pack that you takes vitamin extract, and then like a basically intermediate vitamin product, and a significant data, catalog, and insight, and then cool thermal fluids. Yes, I have to spaghetti together some of these. Uh, this is also a trick that I learned. If you really don't have a way of getting an inserter in with the way that you bring in things, if you really want a line like this, and you didn't want to move it, then just if you're lazy and you've got some room to spare, just have one inserter put it. This only works if you're both if your two lanes are the same thing, and you just have it hand put it down on the ground, the inserter pick it up, one inserter handing it to the next kind of thing. It's kind of silly, but it works okay. And there's more insight here, but of course the insight builds are not working anymore because I don't need it to work, and the significant data builds are not working anymore. Again, I don't need it to work. Because there are better recipes available. And then of course I collect these catalogs for making the productivity modules on the ground. And I have the insight going down still. Oh no, the insight was supposed to come up here. That's it. Yes, come up. Because this is the level 2 insight formula. This is the level 2 science pack. And you see down here, yeah, so some of the level 1 science cards, genetic data and biochemical data has to come down, and it gets made into the next data card. And even then, this next data card is used to make the next level of the bioculture. So there's the base green bioculture, and then there's the purple bioculture, and then the next level of the biomass. The purple biomass. There's one more level of biomass I'll show you in probably the next episode, or maybe even the two after. So there's the purple bioculture over here, and then you could start actually making some of these biters, small biter capsule. Let's see if I can put one of these down. No, you can't. No, I think trees and also these things you have to be here in person to put it down. You can't do it in the you can't have robots put any of those down. And this data card goes here. There's and then the both the biomass, and actually this is a imported vitamin Lang intermediate. There's a lot of different vitamin Lang intermediates. That makes one of the data cards, and then also come down here. These are two more, and looks like this takes up one of the first level of the data cards to make the next level of data cards, and you get there's byproduct handling too, with both contaminated biosludge and contaminated cosmic water, and also you get some of the biomass back. And here's another one, and then all 4 data cards come up here and goes up to the broad catalog, and also both catalogs go into making more insight. Of course this doesn't need to work anymore, so I have the significant data coming in, and this is yet another vitamin Lang intermediate. Significant data, the catalog, insight, previous science pack, and then thermal fluids. Whew. So these are 4 of my these are all 4 level 1 and 2 sciences that I've shown. Maybe I'll show you one more thing before we end this episode, is where I'll show you how the intermediates are made on Novice. So with each of the 4 space exploration materials, you can make the intermediates on ground. If you make them on ground, again, you could productivity module them and get a little bit of them free. If you make them in space, then you don't get any of the free ones. And same with the Immersite products too. You could uh, you actually start needing quite a bit of it. It's randomly added in. The Crastoreal 2 stuff are kind of sprinkled in between. Let's see. It's pretty random. So this is the Vitamelang processing. The Vitamelang kind of gets vulcanized. It kind of gets cooked into a roast. Vitamelang is kind of annoying in that all these steps are actually used in various parts of the sciences. So you have to import a little bit of them into space, and then it just gets made into a spice, and then it gets made in a chemical lab one step further into the extract. Extract comes down here and gets added with nitric. It used to be sulfuric acid, it's now nitric acid, and gets added with glass to make vitalic acid, which is a solid product, and also the oh, and then vitalic acid is made into something called a bioscrubber. Again, adding more glass and steel, um, and you still there's even more to it. The extract is made in adding with the lithium chloride plus vulcanite block to make something called vitalic reagent. Vitalic acid, you end up needing a lot of it later on uh, for the endgame material, the nacqueite processing, and I have made quite a few bigger builds to make more Vitamelang extract. There's bigger glass builds. There's a bigger these electronic component builds that takes in all four lithium. I think this is a advanced K2 recipe, so you don't. This is not a compatibility thing. It's just K2. You initially don't need any lithium. It's just silicon, plastic, and glass to make these electronic components, and then you can add in lithium to make a bigger build. And then I still have this build that so this is a beryllium intermediate build, and so it gets made into these sticks and aeroframe scaffold. These are just randomly named intermediate, and even goes further into a what's called a aeroframe bulkhead. So it's supposed to be a light kind of block material. You need low density structure, and then immersium plate. Immersium plate comes late. Gets used later on. I mean, immersion plate was added in the compatibility update and wasn't in the original. These aeroframe scaffolds need both beryllium plate and the aeroframe pole and immersium plate. It's kind of getting very expensive. And then this these are the um, iridite intermediate products. So there's this heavy bearing which takes lubricant, and then um, also this is just a simple made into heavy girder, and then this is a heavy block called the heavy composite. It needs heat shielding, rare metals, plate, and iridium plate, and the heavy girder. And there's yet one more, which is called a heavy assembly, and it needs more lubricants and also big electric motors. Immersium beam. I think some of these are changed after the compatibility update, and also heavy composite. So this is a pretty late game uh, intermediate component that's used in a lot of the late game machines. And I have more these I built later on, more module builds. Oh, and then this is a Homium intermediate. I don't have enough Homium coming in right now, but this is the Homium cable that I showed earlier on. And then it also Homium solenoid you add in rare metals. I think this happened after the compatibility update. I don't remember what it was before that. And Homium solenoid. So yeah, there's some Homium solenoid here. And this is another Vitamelang. This this comes in later on for the next level, I believe. Um, it's not used in the level 1 and 2. This is a level 3 biological science product. And it's vitalic acid and reagent and sulfur to make this vitalic epoxy thing. It's supposed to be some kind of glue, I guess. Um, this is a I built this pretty recently. This is a didn't even remember this existed until I played later on, where you can take these cryonized slush and make lubricant from that, plus a lot less heavy oil to make so it's a more advanced lubricant recipe. And you see there's a lot of wood builds here. These are not moduled. I built these before the modules came in. Um, I think there's more builds for green and reds. I think my blue circuit is the build currently doesn't work too well, just because I don't have enough homium coming in. It's very annoying. My homium planet. I'll just show you what's going on. Varpulus. This thing constantly runs out, and actually it's not too bad now. I think I just upped these things. These things constantly runs out, even though it gets recycled. A lot of it gets recycled. Not nowhere near enough of it comes in. I think the instant it lands. Let's just take a look at the tongue turbine. Yeah, I've upped the builds for these beats. Now there's a lot more now. So hopefully the next couple of rockets of these things going in, I'll be able to really up my homium amounts. I'm just walking here. I think I showed you the upgraded light density structure builds, my original module builds. There's more updated uh, there's more updated builds for the vitamin line processing, more plastic. This is a bombardment build thing that I have. These are just meteor defense structures. These work globally, so a few of them is actually pretty good. Instead of having to have the smaller meteor defense structures that I have covering all over the place. Don't know if I showed off some of these builds in my first episode. There's the builds for accumulators, the first accumulators anyways, and then the builds for the solar panels, and then the advanced solar panels, which require immersite crystals as well as nitric acid. And then there's more I need a lot of railroads. I built another thing to build more railroads. This is the build for these global meteor defense ammo build, and I think, yep, I think that's all that if I missed showing before, this is it. And I think we're gonna end here about now. I think I can show you one more thing of my advanced mall and what each of the machines do. So on the ground you have some additional machines. You have some bigger. You would have to make some of the more advanced miners. So this is a Mark III mining drill. It's actually quite advanced in terms of what. Oh yeah, it requires these dynamic emitters, which is a space-only product. So you have to import them in to use them. And this is sort of a spaghetti-ish mall with to make some of the advanced machines. There's the advanced furnace. There's an advanced assembling machine. There's a advanced chemical lab plant. Um, wonder what's going on. The biters are pretty crazy here. I have some of these like temporary stations where the instead of trains coming in from the main line, I use these two-headed trains, two-sided trains that will just temporarily go to come here, pick up, and then drive into a temporary box, and then that goes into the main circulation. It works because then by the time that I need to dismantle, by the time that this runs out, oh, and then down here I use also these mining drones. By the time that this runs out, I can just ignore this or just abandon it. I mean, you don't really need to disassemble it. You can just abandon it, and then you don't need that train anymore. And yeah, and then the last thing I guess I'll talk about is these advanced beacons. Advanced beacons are pretty good. They're much better than these basic beacons. They take in a lot. These basic beacons only take in 8 modules, which is actually a lot more than vanilla. Vanilla only gives you 2 modules per beacon. But the thing with AI is that they've updated where each machine can only be affected by 1 beacon. So that's why you have all these advanced level beacons. I mean advanced level modules, so that your 1 beacon affecting 1 machine is way more than enough. Uh, and then the basic beacon has this kind of area of effect. The effect transmission is pretty poor, and then you have this advanced beacon which takes in a lot more, 15 modules to be precise. It's got this tiny area, but if you place it well, you can have it affect at least like 4 machines. If you place it in a corner, they're tiny and so you can sneak them in, and it's pretty good that way. Um, and the effect transmission, the transmission. It says that distribution efficiency is 0.75. The distribution efficiency of this is only 0.5. And then there's the wide area beacon, which is a much more, it's almost an endgame beacon. It has this huge thing, but the machine itself is fairly big, and it's only also a 0.5 multiplier for the beacons. It holds 15, and then there's this endgame wire beacon 2, where this is very expensive to actually make. It takes in a whopping 20 20 modules, and it's only still at 0.5 distribution efficiency. So there's actually a bit of choice to make whether you want to use a lot of these advanced beacons versus one wide area beacon when you make your builds. And because these wide area, these I mean smaller beacons comes so much earlier, a lot of my builds actually use them instead of the bigger beacons. Like this here, yeah, uses those instead of the bigger beacons. And honestly, it comes down to a design choice. Of course, this kind of builds require a lot more modules than you have, and some of these as you keep making more expensive modules, you actually use up almost all your resources making them. So, uh, it can be said which way you want to go. I think that's it for this episode. I've rambled on for a while, so I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.